We've got a 5-stack of teams here, folks. 5 teams that are apparently interested in this free agent. Now, I need to do a lot of learning alongside of y'all, unless you're super into the NCAA and the Cornell University team in particular. Let's get the scoop, shall we? So today, we are talking about an article posted on rg.org. This was written and published by James Murphy, who, of course, has done work with SiriusXM NHL Network Radio, ESPN Boston, and ESN, NHL.com, and more. He published this article yesterday, talking about how the Boston Bruins are amongst a handful of teams interested in signing Cornell's Dalton Bancroft. Now, before we dive into the article, let's go out there and take a look at the profile here. Bancroft doesn't even have a picture on Elite Prospects, but he is a 24-year-old Maddock, Ontario, Canadian-born right wing, 6'3", 207, a right-handed guy. Undrafted, so he doesn't have any NHL ties, but he is a player who is wrapping up his 3rd season with the Cornell University hockey team. This season, he's got 26 points in 34 games played. Unfortunately, a decline from the 31 points he had last year. You can see just from his extended profile that he had spent some time in the OJHL, was the captain of the Trenton Golden Hawks, scoring 92 points in 54 games 3 years ago. The OJHL is junior A hockey in Ontario, but the OJHL doesn't have the same reputation for talent like the BCHL does, for example, other Junior A hockey, although I'm not too sure if you could even say it's Junior A hockey because of all the changes that are going on in Junior A in Canada. But ultimately, the OJHL set the breeding ground for Dalton Bancroft, who eventually found himself in Cornell the next 3 years. Obviously, as a 2001-born player, he was eligible for the 2019 NHL Draft, but was undrafted then and eventually found his way to the path that he's on now. This season, he has been one of the top players on Cornell in points, second only to Ryan Walsh on the team for the team lead. Walsh is a Boston Bruins prospect. There also are a bunch of other prospects here on this team, the Utah Hockey Club's Jonathan Castagna, not to mention the Dallas Stars' George Fergaris, and the Ottawa Senators' Hoyt Stanley. Let's go out there and read the article and acknowledge what Murphy writes here. An NHL source has confirmed to RG that the Boston Bruins are one of a handful of teams making the push to sign Dalton Bancroft. Another NHL source confirmed that 4 to 5 teams are pursuing this player, who happens to be the son of Steve Bancroft, who was drafted 21st overall by the Maple Leafs in 1989. This source indicated that the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Oilers, the Jets, and the Lightning have also expressed interest in Dalton Bancroft. Teams like this kid a lot, the source said. He's got that rare power forward package that so many teams covet these days. He's big. He's not afraid to drive to the net or dig deep in corners, and he can skate. When he's playing that north-south game to perfection, he's really hard to stop. Bancroft attended the 2024 Boston Bruins development camp, and according to this source, he left that same impression on them. You saw how they've been trying to get bigger and tougher, and that's what they saw with him, the source said. So, there is your explanation here. Dalton Bancroft doesn't have the flashiest point production. In fact, he has a decline in point production from last year. But his big 6'3", 207-pound frame allows him to fly down the wing and just kind of bulldoze his way to the front of the net. It seems like the Pens, the Oilers, the Jets, the Lightning, and the Bruins are the 5 teams who are trying to add this sort of a guy. Honestly, just the scouting report, and it seems like the reputation he has built, I'm getting a lot of Cutter Gauthier vibes out of this, although, of course, Cutter Gauthier had a much higher ceiling and more offensive output in the NCAA compared to what Bancroft has done so far. The article scrolls down and talks about some of the accomplishments that he has had after finishing the regular season with 15 goals and 34 games. Bancroft had a goal and 2 assists in 5 ECAC playoff games as the Big Red extended outgoing and legendary head coach Mike Schaefer's career with a 3-1 win over the Clarkson Golden Knights in the ECHC championship game this past Saturday. My God, talk about a run-on sentence. After clinching the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament with that win, Bancroft and his Big Red teammates will now play second-seeded Michigan State, who is ranked number 1 in the final NCAA hockey rankings poll. Before assisting on Tim Rigo's overtime winner in the 3-2 Cornell win over Quinnipiac in the ECAC semifinals, RG caught up with Bancroft and discussed what he believes he can bring to the NHL, and whichever team signs him. When you get to the NHL level, you have to adjust and find a role. Bancroft pointed out to RG, "Here, I've had mostly an offensive role, and I know I'll most likely have to switch over my approach at the pro level, but with my size and physicality I've always brought to my game, I think that'll be a big part." So it turns out he is totally aiming to head into the National Hockey League with this sort of a profile. He wants to be a power forward guy. He wants to have that role. He wants to be feared on the ice. Okay, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth there, but you saw the quote. He wants to use his size and physicality to bring quality to the NHL, whether it is the Bruins, the Penguins, the Oilers, the Jets, or the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know if he'd have a role with the Lightning, to be honest, mostly because they're already so good, but then again, they're already so good. So if he wants to go to a team that's already going to be competitive and could potentially win a Stanley Cup with him as a brand new addition, maybe that's a good one. I don't know. And they have had some success with bigger dudes. Nick Paul comes to mind. I do think of some of the other rougher and tougher players they have had. Patty Maroon had a lot of success with Tampa. Winnipeg is in there as well, also a very strong hockey team. Edmonton is a really old team, so they could use some younger dudes. Dalton Bancroft could be seen as a breath of fresh air, even though he's 24 years old. Not necessarily a young prospect, but still a lot younger than the Oilers' average age of like 30 or whatever it is. Pittsburgh is a team that's also a lot older, but they do have some younger pieces coming in, so if he wanted to be growing alongside of some of the other younger names they have, then that would make sense as well. And then you have yourselves the Boston Bruins, who are already trying to get into that semi-rebuild-ish phase. They just traded away Brad Marchand, after all. If the Bruins want to maintain that tough-to-play-against style that has ever persisted in Boston, then Dalton Bancroft definitely does fit that bill to a T, especially since he had made a presence known in their development camp last year, and they liked him enough to be able to revisit him and want to give him an opportunity again this year. Ultimately, though, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the Cornell University team in the NCAA. We'll see what happens to him in his career as it continues, whether or not the Penguins, the Jets, the Lightning, the Oilers, or the Bruins end up signing him. I will leave you with this. This is what Bancroft says his favorite player is. It's Tom Wilson. Big guy, lays hits, he can fight. I don't know if I can fight yet because I haven't been able to get one in yet. But yeah, kind of just being one of those guys who always lays his body on the line. I love laying guys out just as much as I like putting the puck in the net, so I think there's an attribute of mine that I'll try and carry all the way through to the pro level. The article then talks about how he was a late bloomer. He was a 12th round pick in the OHL, and college hockey was always kind of out there and far gone. And then, really, through his first couple of years in juniors, he was getting scratched, and it wasn't really until he was 19 and 20 years old that he started making a difference, Bancroft recalled. I was never really one of those guys that had a tag on or was thought of as a high-end prospect, so I think that benefited me because I was just playing for the love of the game. So there was never really any pressure on me, and I've kept that same approach even now and through my whole college career. You just gotta enjoy the moment. College is the 4 best years of your life, and that's when you meet your best friends. Your classmates you come in with, your teammates you spend 6 or 7 hours a day with, and that's an experience you can't get anywhere else. So I live by that every day. Just enjoy every day and put my friends and family first, and hope that everything in the hockey world goes the right way. Sheesh, I didn't want to make the end of this video sound anything like a promotional college grab, but ultimately, this is what Dalton Bancroft is speaking about. He does have a good perception towards his own career and the generosity he shows to his own path, even though he wasn't a top-end NHL prospect at 17 years old, and a guy who wasn't really utilized all too much until he was 19. Now he's here. Now he's making waves. And now there's a bidding war for a guy who, in some capacity, is trying to be the next Tom Wilson. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Dalton Bancroft and whether or not you think he is a meaningful addition to your team if you're a fan of the Penguins, the Lightning, the Jets, the Oilers, or the Boston Bruins. Let me know in the comment section below what do you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.